There are many ways to kickstart your acting career. Stand-up comedy is one of them. We're going to talk about it today.
Acting Class Weekly with legendary character actor Sean Whalen. Lessons, tips, and insight into the craft and business of acting from a man who's been directed by the likes of Spielberg, Eastwood, Tim Burton, Ang Lee, Michael Bay, Wes Craven, Tom Hanks, and many more of Hollywood's A-list. He is 30 years an actor and your professor, Sean Whalen.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Let's get to what's the most important always, my wardrobe.
This is a new one?
This is a brand new one, and here's why. I have a few jackets, but it's a comedy day. And so this guy wanted to do a comedy painting of me, like a funny clownish thing, and I go, oh, I'll wear that today because it's a little ill-fitting. It's a little bright blue. It's big. It doesn't fit 100% great. It's a little ill-fitting. It's a little large. It's a little comedic. And I can tell by your faces I killed it because you both find it hilarious.
Well, I think it's bold. I like the boldness of it, like comedy. That's what I would go for. I wouldn't say ill-fitting. I feel like that's the fit of the coat.
You think so?
If that was like a skin-tight coat, it would be weird. It's
but
like
look at that. It doesn't. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit large.
It
but
just
that's
looks like
comedy.
the best fitting jacket at a Ross dress for less.
Right, exactly. But I'm like, this is $7. So with me commenting on my wardrobe, as always, is Miss Phenomenal, Roxy Striar.
You might call me judgy. It's okay.
A little judgy.
Yeah,
nah.
in a good way.
You know, and but I need the feedback. But I mean, isn't this you don't think this is just a hilarious jacket?
No, I think that you were doing the blue thing again. I see you. I see through you.
No, I wasn't. She gets mad because she thinks I'm doing blue on blue to just really hit home that she just does not have the blue eyes that I have.
It is clearly what he's trying to say.
No, that's other no, there are times that I actually do that, but today wasn't one of them. I was going for wacky comedy jacket. And maybe I scored. I don't know. Mr. Funtabulous in the booth, Jeff Graham, our producer.
Guys, very excited for the show. I was saying our special guest has some Jim Jeffries connections, of whom I'm a huge fan, so I'm excited
Nice.
to get into it. Yes.
And our Jim Jeffries connection is Subhah. Now, how do I say it properly? Agarwal? Mm-hmm. I've said it right before, though. Subhah Agarwal. She is a stand-up comedian, and she's written for the Jim Jeffries show, and she's how many years ago? Like 2 or 3?
They started...
Yeah, start getting into more acting stuff.
I think since I started taking it seriously, probably Playhouse West, which has been like a 3-year journey.
3 years,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So what we're talking about today, guys, is, from stand-up into acting and how you kind of merge those together using the momentum, the heat, the recognition, and the tools, and see how they fit. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we do all that, before we jump in, we're going to get into Sean's week, and I think we're in the meat of the year. So it's got to be a kind of straightforward Sean's week. Do you know what I mean?
January 15th is the meat of the year?
The beginning, sure. Because I think, in this, look, most other people, like my girlfriend who works at an office job, she was there, January 2nd. But entertainment shuts down for a month.
But this is the bread. This is not the meat. There's 12 months of the year. We're
saying
15 days in.
It's the first slice of the meat. We're starting the meat. Do you know what I mean? I'm just starting to carve the turkey. Do you know what I mean?
Mr. Funtabulous?
It just depends on what kind of meat we're talking about.
Yeah,
is this hors d'oeuvres? Is prosciutto? Is this, turkey? There's so many options.
I feel like if the year is a meatloaf, let's stay on the loaf thing, as we were talking before. Long story, folks. But it's the first, we're getting into everyone's ramping up fully in this town. But I think other places they've started earlier.
I just feel like so much happened in the news. I feel like I'm already done with this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's the end slice.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot going on just after the holidays. Yeah.
There's a lot going on every year, guys. Come on.
But anyway,
our world's been on fire for a long time.
So let's. But what I'm saying, let's give it because the holidays are over. We're in it now. So I guess I'm saying like a straightforward Sean's week. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Sean's week.
Now wait, I didn't say like we're bored and done with the
Sean's
year.
week. Straightforward.
That's
What is it?
straightforward.
Sean's week.
That's bored.
But you said straightforward. What is it? Sean's week.
But
I will
felt
say, Sean, I took the direction the same way. I'm going to put this one on the director. I'm sorry.
I feel like my direction, I totally misfired. We're doing reshoots.
Good on you for taking responsibility for your failures.
I am. All right. So what happened in my week? I am starting up my sketch class again. So I am making, I had... It's actors are so funny. I had this great group. They were ready. I thought we had a great sketch show at the end of last year, and I was like, here we go. You guys are all coming back. We're going to keep this momentum going. And then some of them are like, I'm going to take another class. I'm going to take another class. I'm going to take some time. And I was like, what happened? So I went around, got some more actors, and I'm starting my sketch class this Sunday. Guys, if you're in the LA area and you want to take a great sketch class, you can reach out to me at SeanWhalenBiz@gmail.com. We start this Sunday. It's really fun.
Sean, do you mean to tell me that some actors are flaky?
A little bit.
Oh.
Little bit.
Good information to have.
And so I've been doing that. I got back into my looping shows again. I did a couple Fresh Off the Boats. I'm doing The Walking Dead again. So that's happening. And the neat thing was I was contacted by a woman who has a website and a known family friend, but she's got a really cool product, and she reached out to me to do some fun kind of commercial type videos. And everybody's heard the legendary Amy, my daughter, who is so rough to me when she directs me on my self-tapes, who is just so brutal, that I got her as my director. I told her I would pay her some money to do so out of the money that I get for this. And already I go, hey, I got this great idea for a commercial. I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. And she's like, that's not funny. I don't know. She goes, I said, what do you mean? I think it's goofy. She goes, yeah, but it's just like big and loud. It's not funny. And so, I was like, wow. And I had to shape it. And then she'd be like, yeah, that's good. That's good. Roxy, you saw the commercial. Give us a review.
Very cute. It's I don't want to say
fun.
what it is.
It's fun.
Because nobody knows what it is yet.
Yeah. No one knows what it is.
Okay,
yet.
well, you're doing a couple of different things.
No. You can say that it's a cold product to prevent colds, and so I do a double me.
A double him. So I loved the double you. I like the two different looks. I thought those were great.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just cute. It's cute and fun.
Yeah. And what was really cool is like when she's like, hey, can I sit down for this shot? And I go, no, you kind of can't, because we have to match eye lines. And so when you're on me on this side, it got to be the same. It can't be me up here and then you down here. It's got to match. But as soon as we did all that stuff, man, she was into it. And there were times that she was like, all right, do you know what you're going to say? And I said, yeah, I ran it. She goes, nope, rehearse it 3 times and then tell me when you're done. I mean, she was just like unbelievable. And then there were times that I did it and I go, that was really good. She goes, I didn't like the shot. Will you do it again? I mean, just really, really, really funny. And then when we were editing, that was the really cool thing. Sitting there with her, and she goes, no, don't cut it there.
What are you editing on?
Just iMovie.
And she's telling you, like,
she's like, yeah. So I'm moving the thing, and I go, yeah, I think right here. And she goes, no. Here. And if you can't see me, I just move my finger just a skosh. She goes, no, this is where it is, right here. So it was really, really cool. And then the lady was like, hey, we have our music. I'm just going to plug it in. The music that we use for all the commercials, I'll just plug it in. It's fine, right? And I said, well, let me just check with Amy. And Amy's like, it's not our vibe. I'm not really into that music. And I was like, okay, let her put it in and then send it to you. And then when she put it in, she was like, oh, yeah, I see what she's saying. But at first I was like, oh, my God, my daughter's going to tank this thing.
It's not our vibe, Sean.
She's like, not the vibe. It's not the vibe of what we did.
Can't sell out, Sean.
Yeah. So it's great working with her. It's really fun. So that's been really fun. So that was my week. And so before we get into it and talking about my week, we want to do a couple shout outs for the Alt Oscar. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. We're doing the Alt Oscars. Jeff, maybe you can talk a little more about this. I'm excited that Popcorn Talk and powered by AfterBuzz is presenting the Alt Oscars, because there's so many amazing things the Oscars nominated, but there's also things, of course, that they weren't able to nominate, things that we love so much here in studio. Jeff, when is all of this happening?
Yeah, so we're dropping our nominations within the next 24 hours, which is very exciting. I mean, it's crazy. Like a movie like Us, which got completely shut out this year.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy. crazy to think the Academy overlooks films just inevitably. There's only so many slots, but
Right.
we're really proud of the list we've put together. It's much more diverse than the Oscars, which is something we're proud of, and we're calling it the Oscars, like Roxy said. The nominations are dropping within 24 hours of this moment, so probably Thursday, January 16th, or this evening. And the actual nominees are going to be awarded their winners on the day of the Oscars, the morning
cool.
before. So it's your lead-in to the ceremony.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about
exciting.
it.
And then for, getting behind this show and getting more involved,
Well,
Roxy?
for all of the shows, honestly, because the reason that we know that you guys want something like the Alt Oscars is because you guys have been so vocal in the comments and on Twitter and everywhere that you've been. And so we read everything you guys have to say. So we really appreciate when you show support to our show by telling us what it is you guys like, what you don't like for Acting Class Weekly. What would help you the most? I know that you guys are working actors, upcoming actors, and you have questions about things. And Sean's 30 years an actor, so he's got answers for you. So always leave a comment. Let us know your questions. Also, thumbs up, 5-star wherever you are. That really helps us build and grow our community, which matters on a show like this. We want
Yes.
to expand the community and have a greater pool of people here to converse with about all things acting. Subscribe as well. This is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, wherever podcasts and video is, we are there as well. So thank you so much for your support, guys, and keep those comments, thumbs, likes, and all that stuff coming.
Yes.
Keep those thumbs coming.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
what does that mean?
and don't worry about the shout outs. I kind of pushed it again because I know when we have a special guest, we have a lot to do. So
And you're right, I do shout outs every week, and I saw that there were some on last week's YouTube, so I will next week
yeah,
give
just
shout
when
outs
we have
to
a
everybody.
guest, sometimes we get a little squeeze, and I want to make sure we get as much of Subhah as possible. So, as I mentioned before, she's a stand-up comedian, transitioning into acting, not getting rid of stand-up 100%, just adding that to her canon of talents. And so I always like to say when I have a guest how we met. And so we met at I did a auditioning for comedy workshop at Playhouse West, and Subhah signed up for it.
When are we talking?
This was probably a year ago.
Yeah,
probably
about a year ago,
About
yeah.
a year ago, yeah. And she was one of my students, and then. Talk about that experience and then why you reached out to me as a coach then.
Taking the class, number one, just the way you broke down the comedy genres, like what you're looking to do, because being in Playhouse West, it's very theory heavy, like on the acting and like how to approach it, and then
Meisner technique.
Yes.
Yes,
So
that we've talked about on this show.
very heavy on that, and then yours was kind of like the first where it was like an integration of like Meisner technique
Right.
into like how to practically apply it to these different genres, and it was like the first time I had seen that because when you're a stand-up, they automatically put you in these like auditions for like sometimes pretty big roles, and it's just like embarrassing. Like you
And
don't know
what
what
do you mean?
to do.
Because you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me at Groundlings. I literally, a woman saw me at the Sunday show and goes, "You're amazing. I'm going to bring you in for stuff." And she was literally like, "You don't know how to do this."
When you
do
actually got in the audition room.
Yeah, in
So
the
what you're saying
audition
is,
room.
as a stand-up, it opens doors for you that might not be at the same level that you are at, but they want stand-ups for things.
Yeah.
So you're going into huge rooms
Yeah.
that you might not be prepared for.
It was terrible. Certainly burned some bridges. It was kind of interesting because it's like, okay, so I didn't know how to do that, and then it's like when you take something that's as theory heavy as Meisner technique, it like breaks down all of the quick fixes they give you, where it's like when you're a comic and you're working with someone, they'll be like, say this line like this, do this, like they give you reads.
Right.
And it's very like specific, and
Right.
then when you do Meisner, it's kind of like learning how to authentically
Be free and open and
like work as yourself truthfully.
Right.
And so it kind of made me worse for a minute, and then I was
Yes.
panicking because I was like, what is happening?
What do you mean it made you worse?
Because like I didn't know, because it wasn't like this clearly fake like polished thing, but it also wasn't good. It was just like
Right. That's what I
a
told you. I
mess.
told the story. Didn't I tell the story about how I lost the job on Wayne's World?
You told your story, yeah.
Yeah. I was saying the same kind of thing because I was in Playhouse and I was like, oh, I have to be this, and they were like, no, just be big and silly for
Yeah.
Wayne's World,
So
and
you
I
were
didn't
super
know.
in your head, kind of, then.
It's not even like
No, you just want to do it authentic
Yes.
and real, and then it's a comedy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't intersect perfectly.
and then like learning how to mesh like the two, which is what I saw your class did, and it was like a light bulb went off on my head, and I was
Right.
like so furious that I like it's like everything made so much more sense to me, and I was angry
Right.
that it took me so long to
Right.
figure it out.
When you say mesh the two, so that now you mean
Like how to practically apply Meisner technique to
A
comedic
comedy
roles. Yeah.
script. You know, break
Gotcha.
them, to merge them together. So then, when she got some auditions, she asked me to coach her, and we did.
because you didn't want to burn any more bridges.
Yeah.
You were done. You were like,
And that's going to
time
be, and
rest.
I'll know we'll tease this. I usually do my story from the set, but we're going to talk about Subhah's story from the set when she got to work on Westworld.
Yeah, I was
So,
excited.
Yeah.
and that was something I coached her on. So that's how, and we've been working on and off for her with her auditions for a year. So what was your journey into stand-up? Like, how did you get into stand-up? Why did you want to get into stand-up? How old were you? All that stuff.
Well, when first time I wanted to be a comedian, I was 16.
Okay.
And so I got into it for like a weird 16-year-old girl reason.
Which is?
Well, I was super unpopular, and like I was like very
Where did you grow up?
Suburbs of Chicago.
Okay.
And I was like super heavily bullied. I didn't even know how to talk to people. Like I would want to say a joke, but then when I said it, it was kind of one of those things where the room just got quiet because they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like,
Right.
and it was the exact same moment where I went from like a primarily white neighborhood to a high school that had Indian kids in it, and they were obsessed with this comedian named Russell Peters. Like,
Okay.
I think it was like one of the first examples of a comic going viral.
Okay.
And so I thought if I could be like him, all the Indian kids would like me.
Okay.
So that was my goal. And
Okay.
so it was just
Do you have
like,
an Indian background, or did you? Okay.
and then I spent like a year just like writing jokes because I didn't know you could get on stage before you were like 21. And then at 17, I found an all ages open mic and I started doing stand up.
Okay.
Just writing jokes in a notebook somewhere, just things you thought were funny.
Yeah.
Were you reading books on it, or just
No,
anything
I
you
just
thought?
binge watched as much comedy as I could like record.
Stand-up stuff.
Yeah. I like just straight up recorded Comedy Central and then tried to watch it when my parents fell asleep. Like,
Yeah. Now, how did they feel about stand-up?
They didn't like it at all.
Sure.
They took me to my first open mic.
Okay.
And because, like, you know, at 17, my friends were like, you know, we're suburbs kids. They're like, you can't go into the city by yourself. So
Right.
I asked my parents to take me, and that was a mistake. Like, every comic in the crowd was like, why are there old, angry Indian people here? Like, every comic was like, what are you doing here?
That's so
They
funny.
were so, I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, the comics were filthy, and it's an open mic, so they were filthy and not funny, so it was terrible.
Right.
It was like the worst.
Right.
And naturally, I mean, obviously the reaction was like, you're
Please
not.
don't do this. Yeah.
Not even please not. Like, you're absolutely
not
not.
doing- okay,
You're not
okay.
going to be in this environment. You're
Right.
not going to listen to these opinions, be
You
around
are,
these
yeah.
people. They're disgusting. You know,
Right,
like
right,
they
right.
wanted nothing to do with it. So, I mean, I obviously just started lying and saying I was going to like parties, which is
Right.
worse.
That's hilarious.
I know, and it was just for a while, and then it was like it was a really rough for a long time. But
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so when did you start, booking like real gigs and getting paid and stuff like that? How long did that take?
I mean,
You mean as a stand-up?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, because I came to New York when I was how old was I?
Did
When
you
I was
go to
20.
college or?
I did.
Okay.
But I wasn't really making a lot of money in Pittsburgh. I went to University of Pittsburgh.
So you went from Chicago to Pittsburgh to New York to LA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I was in New York when I was 20. So I feel like maybe a year or two after that, like 21, 22.
Okay.
But I'm like talking small money. Like, you'll get like $20
yeah.
for doing a show
Yeah.
or a show
But
or
you're
something.
slowly getting noticed and known on this scene.
And then, like, I don't think I made a living working in the comedy area. And it was as a writer. I didn't do that until I was like,
Right.
oh, geez, how many years was that? Probably like around 8, 9, even 10 years in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And so, what is the comics? You and I discussed this briefly, but what is the comedy view of? Because when I was here in the '90s, and I knew stand-up comics, I know a few of my comic friends, and they were doing commercials and things like that. But the goal was get really good, get your sitcom. It was Jerry Seinfeld, Tim Allen, George Lopez. Like that was that was what you did. You were a great stand-up, and then you got your sitcom. But is that still kind of a pervasive view? I mean, I doubt it, right? Because it's not as many sitcoms as there used to be.
Well, the thing is, like, when you're a comic, it's very hard to just make money doing stand-up.
Okay.
So either there are some people who build a following from the ground up, either with podcasting or social media.
Okay.
And then they can tour off of that, and that's like one route, but then there's the other route of like you write for TV, you act for TV, you do all
Okay.
these other things until you can eventually put out your own show, even if it's like not a sitcom or whatever. I mean, just look at Tiffany Haddish, you know, like
Right.
she blew up by booking a series regular role and then getting that role in a movie where she absolutely nailed it.
Wait, what
And,
was the series regular role again?
I think it was
The Carmichael Show, right?
yeah, the Carmichael Show.
oh, okay.
So it's
See, I didn't really know her until her Saturday Night Live thing.
Oh, yeah?
And then I saw Girls Trip after
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, and we were like, oh my God, she was so funny. Do you ever see Girls Trip?
Yeah, of course.
She was
yeah.
so
It's excellent.
funny in
amazing.
Girls Trip.
Yeah, but before that, it was like a series regular on the Carmichael Show. So
Okay.
and there are like a lot of comics that do that as well, that still try and build a name or reputation through acting.
But it sounds like for you, you wanted to be a stand-up, and you weren't using that as a vehicle to then be an actor. You got into comedy because you wanted to be a stand-up,
Yeah.
and then you actually started taking acting classes because you were finding yourself in rooms that you weren't prepared for.
100%. I didn't really even develop a love for acting until I was at Playhouse West, and then
Okay.
I understood the creativity behind it.
Right.
And like all the different choices you get to make and what it's like to like live out a scene or a character. Like I didn't understand what that was. So
Right.
it's like I couldn't love something I didn't even know what acting was really.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I developed another love for it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing and really fun.
Well, go ahead.
What do you think about people, because like the list that Sean just mentioned, I think a lot of people get into stand-up because they look at it as a window into acting. You know, there's all different ways to try to get in. Do you think that in 2020 that is a smart vehicle to go about? I'm sure you've seen many people who have tried.
I mean, I keep seeing it, and they keep being like, my manager's telling me to do this, so there has to be some reason that people are
Manager
doing
keeps
that.
telling you to do.
Like, I'll have, like, actors be like, oh, my manager told me to try stand-up, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I think a lot of managers do that, or try to groundlings or something, especially if you're going in for commercials or anything like that.
right,
They want you
anything
to.
comedic.
Yeah.
To me, it's just, like, a very interesting thing to do. I mean, I think there are some benefits that you get from trying stand-up, just in terms of getting comfortable being in front of a live crowd, understanding comedic timing, like maybe
Right,
who you are, what your voice is a little bit more,
Right.
how you come off.
right.
So there are things that you can get out of it, but it's just like, and maybe this is just because I love stand-up so much. It's its own animal. So it's not something where you can be like, oh, I'm just going to kind of dabble in it. Like, it's years and years of like absolute focus and dedication before you truly,
Right.
I mean, like, in my opinion, earn the right to be a quote-unquote stand-up.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
say 5 years of crappy shows.
yeah.
Like they say, don't even think about it. If it's like David Mamet said, 5 crappy plays, 5 years of crappy stand-up for most of. I saw Steve Harvey and Jerry Seinfeld do their Comedians in Cars, and he was like, "Listen, you can't teach. Either you have the comedic, element in you." He goes, "We can't." Some stand-up comics can become great actors, but a lot of great actors cannot just turn into great stand-ups. Do you agree with that? So he said you either have it or you don't. Like he was making a joke about a stand-up comedy class, and he's like, if you're here, you're not going to make it because it's not that. It's you have it and then you develop it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I think that's still a question that you can ask to this day. Like,
Sure.
whether talent is something that you're born with or it's something that's earned over the 10,000 hours.
Yes.
Me personally, I wasn't funny before I started doing stand-up.
Okay.
I was the opposite of funny. Like, I was kill a room, terrible, you know?
Right,
so,
right.
And I
That's
just
interesting.
wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to get good so badly, and I pounded my head against the wall for so many years that
Yeah.
You
I
taught yourself to be
developed-
funny.
Yeah, it developed
Yeah.
that skill set.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's kind of inspirational for the people out there, because I think that if you want, you said that it wasn't a great reason as a 16-year-old. But
Yeah.
I think that that's a awesome reason. I think
Right.
everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants these things. And I think that the fact that you were able to take something you were not good at and then become not only good at it, but successful in it means that maybe that isn't correct what Steve Harvey said.
Yeah,
Maybe that
yeah.
there is somebody out there listening who's like, I don't know, I do want to do this, but I don't know if I'm funny. And maybe you can learn.
I really do think you can learn.
That's interesting. So how does it help you? You know, we talk about classes a lot. How does it help or hurt you in classes? You kind of mentioned it a little bit. Any other roadblocks, or does it help you? when you get up there and do scenes because you're not afraid to get up in front of people?
That's the number one thing because
Okay.
it's like, I mean, I'm still working on being 100% relaxed when I'm doing a scene.
Everybody
I'll notice a
is
difference.
your entire life.
But it's like people would like, like other students would be like, oh, I'm so nervous to like do this in front of the class, or I'm nervous to, and it's like I don't
Right.
really have that, Where
Right.
It's like, oh, we're gonna put it up. This is crazy. My friends are here. I'm like, if my friends showed up, I'd be ecstatic because I've been performing
Right.
for so long.
Right, right.
In fact, I'd be like, what are you doing here?
So that
Yeah,
helps. So
yeah.
that's gone because if you can stand up there by yourself, totally raw, exposing your material, it's a lot easier to be in front of
Yeah.
people doing someone else's material. It's not even on you, you
Yeah.
know, if they like the material or not.
And I think Playhouse West actually helped my stand-up like the other way around, just because
Right.
like sometimes when you're like a comedian, you don't even realize it. Like you'll fall into a certain speech pattern or a certain way of moving based on like your favorite comedians, and then Playhouse West and like Meisner, like it teaches you to act as yourself or perform as yourself.
Right.
So I feel like I was able to take that and like in my stand-up, I was able to speak more like I do.
Right.
every day,
so it was symbiotic.
Yeah.
Both kind of helped each other.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And now how did it help you get representation?
Stand-up?
Yeah, I mean, you have a pretty good agency and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Did that help because you had that stand-up
The
background?
stand-up or the acting?
I'm sorry, acting agencies.
Well, yes, because I got my first representation through stand-up. Like specifically, I got managed by a club, and then they set me up with an agent, and
that's a stand-up agent, right? And a stand-up agent just books you for stand-up stuff.
no, it's
okay.
because like I said, it's so hard to make money as a comedian that like when they hook you up with an agent, it's a lit agent, it's an acting agent, it's a voiceover agent.
Okay.
So the club was representing you, and then they get you actual representation. That's how it works.
Some clubs also manage. This club happened to also manage. It's
Okay.
Just,
Was it in Los Angeles?
No, this was in New York.
Okay, and they set you up with theatrical and commercial auditions as well? Okay. Okay. And then, but out here, how did that help you out here?
Well, because of I made my money as a writer first.
Okay.
So I had a lit agent, and then they sent me a submission. I filled it out. I got a writing job here, so I moved here. And then,
Because of that.
yeah, and then it like, when I was here,
Did it
I was
ask for samples, or you literally like you filled it out? It was just
well, every show is different. So normally they'll give you like a writing prompt and tell you what they want, and then you have to generally write like some sort of sample of like what would be on the show.
Okay.
And then they'll read through that.
So that's another part, guys, and this is what we've talked about on the show about creating your own content. So that's why when you go to Groundlings and Second City and those places, that's why a lot of those people are doing really well because they were writing their material to begin with. So Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and all this stuff, they were writers anyway, and Adam McKay and all those people, they came from a writing background. So stand-up,
Tina Fey,
obviously.
Amy Poehler,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
it's endless of all the people. Kristen Wiig,
Yeah.
everybody. Melissa McCarthy, I mean, again, endless. And I've talked about this a lot. There is, just taking a class, waiting by the phone, it's just not. So you're writing stand-up and pursuing acting. That's really smart because you're, all within a certain wheelhouse, comedy mostly. But I mean, when we talk about it, the thing you booked first was a drama.
dramatic, yeah.
And I said this, I was pitching the sketch show. I said, listen, if I had my way, I'd be doing comedy my whole 80% and drama 20%. But I've been doing mostly, if I looked and broke down what is drama, what is comedy, I've probably done more drama. But thank God I was at Playhouse, so I could do drama,
But I feel like drama, it's just good, especially like, I mean, I hate using the term artist, but like,
Right, yeah.
as a person working in this field, it's just good to have a variety of things to do to
Yeah.
feed yourself.
Yes.
Just because like, even with stand-up, I'm like,
Do you mean feed your soul, or you mean
Yeah.
put food on your plate?
no, feed your soul. Just because, I mean, food on your plate is a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, even with, like, I love stand-up more than anything. It's my passion. I dedicated
Yes.
my whole life to it. And I'm like 13 years deep. Yeah, I'm 13 years deep at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
even I am like, why the hell am I writing another joke? Like, this is
Right,
ridiculous.
right.
And then,
of
like,
course.
having another outlet where I get to be creative in a different way, like working in a dramatic role, like something really serious, it like rekindles my love for comedy because I can go back and I can enjoy it because it's like I've stepped away from like just constant.
Right. So I want to get, get into acting, but I would love to try stand-up as a way in. What are your tips for someone starting to do stand-up? I mean, I read Amy Schumer's book, and she was saying, like, people would go, well, you have to just put in the hours, tons of hours. And she was saying, well, I don't have to do that. And then she said, finally, like 2 years in, she went, oh, yeah, I do. Like, but it wasn't, I have to, and it's a grind. She wanted to. She wanted to keep, like, hammering. So what would be your tip if I wanted to start in stand-up?
Watch as much as you can. Watch as many different types of stand-up comedians as you can. Go to shows, look online.
You think watching is better than listening?
Either. I think there's always a benefit the more information you can see, like the way someone performs, the faces they make. Like I think the more you can see, the better. But listening is also great.
Right.
So however much you can consume as much of it as physically possible, and get on stage. Like
Open
there's
mic
no
nights.
substitute. Yes, go to open mics, which are just like. If you don't know, you can just sign up, put your name down, and they'll let you perform. So
how do I okay, so I know nothing. How do I go, okay, I'm in, Milwaukee, and there's comedy clubs. What do I do? Do I go to a website? It's
city to city. Like New York used to have a website called Bad Slava. Then there was openmics.org. Like there are some sites that will aggregate all the open mics in a city. So you can just look at the list. In LA, I think it's the Comedy Bureau.
Okay.
In some cities where there's maybe not that big of a scene, generally if you just Google it or look it up. But
look for Google open mic nights in my area.
If you're going to an open mic, what should you have prepared? Should you have 3-minute set prepared? Should you have how many jokes? What should you be expecting?
You should have jokes because there's nothing more annoying than someone going up there and then doing nothing,
thinking they're funny.
So I definitely, especially for your first time,
be prepared.
Yes, be prepared with jokes and like things you want to talk about, and then. Throughout your journey, I recommend trying as many different things as possible. Like
how many minutes should I prepare if I'm going to an open mic?
Most of them are between 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I would just look at how long they give you and try and have approximately that much time.
But if you're somebody who's doing a ton of open mics, you should have a 5-minute set ready. Like you should have up to 5 minutes of material ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you run short, it's fine. Just say like, you know what, that's all I have to say. No one's gonna hate you for that or judge you for that.
Right.
And later on, I think like you should experiment with like, okay, I have an idea. Maybe I'm just going to talk it out on stage. Maybe I'll try writing it out and then I'll say it. Like, find what way works best for you.
Find your process is what you're saying. Okay.
And then record yourself. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough.
Okay.
You mean have somebody record you when they're in the audience, or you mean when you're home in the mirror, record yourself?
Either like you can use the voice notes function on your iPhone, and you can just record the audio. Again, it's always better if you can get the video, but that gets a little bit harder.
You could just, if you had a friend with you that can just tape you on your iPhone.
Yeah, and comics also just bring tripods with them, and they just set them up on a table.
Okay.
And they'll record themselves, because that's how you're gonna learn. Is by like sitting there listening to your jokes, seeing what works, watching yourself, seeing how you do certain things.
Roxy made me watch myself as a podcaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm her worst student, and she won't tell anyone. She trained me. Okay, so that's the way. You go to as many open mics, record yourself, and just do it as much as possible.
And watch.
And then how does someone know what is the way to get out of that place and go to the next level? Someone will notice you at the club, or
you should never ever wait for someone to notice.
Okay.
You should always be proactive.
Okay.
I mean, naturally you don't necessarily want to rush into something. You're like, I'm a year in, I'm gonna go audition. It's like, well,
yeah.
Make sure you're ready, and you have like if you want to host at a club, make sure you have a good 15-minute set or a 10 to 15-minute set that you can do that you feel confident in before you go and do that audition. But generally, your friends that you'll make doing open mics will start running shows, or you yourself might start running a show, and then you can ask them for spots, and then you're performing instead of just for comedians, you're performing in front of a live crowd.
Guys, we've talked about this on the show a lot. Networking. Yeah.
How important was networking in becoming a stand-up for you?
I was really bad at it. I'm still very bad at it. So I definitely took longer. Like, someone had to tell me, literally, like, why are you still doing open mics? Like, they literally had to sit me down and have a conversation with me.
Nice.
Because I was under the impression that if I was talented, it would come to me. I just kept putting myself down. I was like, I'm not ready, clearly, because nothing's happened. And then they're like, nothing's happened because you're not asking for it.
Right.
And that's 100% something I just wish I had known, that if you want something, even when you have a management or an agent, like, you can't wait for them you have to tell them, you have to direct your own career, you have to set a goal, and you have to actively be working towards it.
So I'm going to say that is a great, warm up if you're going to be an actor too. If learning that in stand up, you've got to do the same in acting, and you're used to that muscle being flexed. So that's a really good way that it benefits. Yeah, for sure, to be proactive. Absolutely. Is there any other do's and don'ts that you would have, like any do's besides, be proactive, tape yourself, anything else that you would say to people? A do that you can think of, and if not, any don'ts.
Let me see if I can think of a do. Other than do, just try a bunch of stuff and don't limit yourself.
Okay.
Especially not. It's going to take a really long time for you to figure out what you like and what you don't like.
So do be patient.
Yeah.
Okay. And persistent.
Yes. And I guess I think it's the comedy vibe is changing, but it's like for a while it was really negative and just unnecessarily shitty. Like, people were very heavily like bullies, for some reason. And it's like, neither of us has anything. We're both performing for drink tickets. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Sorry, I didn't ask if I could cuss. I'm just cussing.
Who's neither of us? Who are you talking about?
Like another comic who's also an open micer would just be like a complete.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
like
it's
mean to you?
Yeah, they would just put down other open micers, and it's like you're.
Oh, so you would get up there and you're putting down another comic that just went.
There was a lot of negativity when I started. I think that's changing a little bit.
That's good.
But it's like, don't
weird
don't
because
do
the
that.
big guys don't do that at all. Like Jerry Seinfeld and those guys, they're all friends.
Yeah, because the thing is,
dish.
well, I mean, there's always drama behind the scenes because the thing is, like, once you start getting to a certain level, like, the people who were dicks earlier on had to literally issued public apologies for being so terrible, because it gets to the point when you start working where you can't do that. Nobody will work with you.
No one will work with you.
Quickly hop in here. This is Jeff from the booth. I'm a huge comedy nerd, and I like this space, even though I don't necessarily participate. But I've heard that, like, the improv community is kind of more like the Sunshine and Rainbows community, and the stand-up community is kind of more like the angsty, smoke alone in the back community. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, stand-up is a lot more individual,
right?
And so
because
it's
you're
like
fighting for yourself only, right?
So, and like improv, you have to rely on your teammates, so it's a lot happier of a vibe.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's just dumb. It doesn't make you a better comic. It doesn't make you better than anyone. It just makes people
work on your own stuff.
And everyone you think is going to go away because they're shitty might hang in there and get really good. And then you're in a position where you're asking them for work.
Right.
And more than that, just don't be a garbage human being to not be a garbage human being.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just... It was so annoying to me that was like a part of quote unquote comedy culture where it's like, I'm just going to be the biggest, It's stop.
I read a tweet the other day that said, like, what happens if climate change is all a big hoax and we made the world a better place for no reason? It's kind of like that. Like, just don't be a crappy person.
Yeah.
Just like, how about just not to be? Curious about your biggest, like, the highlight of your stand-up career. If there's one moment that, I'm sure there are a million, but one thing that you feel the most proud of, or...
I think it would probably be quitting my day job was like the coolest moment for me.
When you didn't have to have a day job anymore.
Yeah, when I didn't have to work retail, like just that feeling of like being able to walk away from something I hated.
Yeah,
it was just so good,
Yeah, that's exciting and scary because now you're like, oh, I can't complain. You can't be folding your clothes going, ugh, if I was a stand-up full time. And then when you do it, you're like, uh-oh, now I've got to actually do this. I remember when I quit my waiting job for acting was the same thing. It's like, yes, ooh, now I gotta can sustain it because I don't want to come back here.
Yeah.
But that is such a great feeling. So to wrap it up, but what I love is that everything you're saying to do is much more proactive, much more self-directed, and I just feel like actors need that. They just don't. They think, well, I'm good in class, you know what I mean? And that's just the beginning of it. You have to do so many other things. Michael Caine in his book talks about how you're auditioning all the time. All the time. What you said, he said there was this guy that was on the Universal tram and all these other actors would bail on him, but I would always support him. And when he came by, I'd sign autographs for him, his tour groups and things like that. And it turned out to be Michael Ovitz, who ran CAA. And, you know, then, so you never know.
Yeah.
He goes, you should always just be good. And luckily, it may help you out in the future because you were good. But just then, like you said, you'd just be a good person anyway. You're always auditioning. You're auditioning always.
Speaking of always auditioning,
yes.
well, I wanna hear about her.
Yes. So this is stories from the set. She came in one time and we did. She had a few lines for Westworld. It was a drama, so it wasn't a comedy. We usually worked on a lot of comedies, but this was a drama.
So did your rep send you this role? And okay.
Yeah, and that was a self-tape, right?
Yeah.
So we worked on, and we didn't tape it at my place,
No,
right?
because it was supposed to be a live audition. I was supposed to go in for it, and then
That's right, and then they canceled
because
it, right?
the casting director got sick. So then I'm literally leaving your place, and then it's like, "Hey, can you send in a self-tape?" And I was like, "Come on."
I know, what a bummer, because we could have done it right then.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So what did you do?
Well, I also had a writing job at the time, so I went to work, and then I was like, on my lunch break, I just asked one of the PAs who was nice enough to help tape and like edit it.
Because you had
for
already
me.
been coached.
Yeah.
Right, and that was that morning, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't that long, and our ideas were still fresh in your head. And did you do a couple of takes or just one? Because
I did
we
a
talked
couple.
about that. We talked about the different ones you could do, like try. So how many did you put on there? 2, 3?
I mean, I think I only submitted one, but I think I probably did it like 3 or 4 times.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How
so,
do they feel at work when you're coming in and you're asking a PA to help you tape for another gig? Did you have to be careful about that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You got to be
Especially
careful.
because I was planning on just calling out sick to go to the audition.
So the fun news is the story from the set was she got to work with Ed Harris.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, tell us about that. You told me some cool things about him not doing it the same every time.
Yeah, it was just very much in the tradition of like Playhouse West, where it's like he just read the lines differently almost every time. It gave me something different to work off. Like
Right.
it was incredible just to see how many different ways, what he was bringing to it, how much fun he was having with the role. It
Right.
was just incredible to be around that energy, and then being able to react and respond off of that was just
Right.
such a gift.
Yeah. And now, do you think because of your stand-up, it helped with your nerves on the set, or is it just a different beast, 100%?
No, it definitely any length of like performing or just like facing constant rejection for God knows how many years, you know?
Yeah.
And then
So
like
this is nothing. They want you there.
it was more of like, I don't know why I wasn't nervous. To me, I guess it was just like so many years of getting kind of close to things and then like having my heart broken and like number
So you're
one.
just so happy to be there.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know if it was like. Well, I was ecstatic to be there, but it was more of just like it was so insane to me that it didn't feel real.
Right.
Does that make sense? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
I auditioned on Friday and then I taped on Monday. It was like
Wow.
and it was like Westworld, so it was just
With Ed
so.
Harris.
And this was season 1 or
No, this is the
for-
season
current
coming out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So have you even seen it yet?
No,
So exciting. Yeah.
but it
was
was
great.
just so ridiculous to me that I wasn't nervous because I was like, "Am I in a coma?" Like it just didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just
But
so
that's-
out there to
what
me.
a great thing. And you're a drama and Ed Harris. So listen, I think those were some really good tips, some really good takeaways for, taking stand up and bringing it to acting and how they work and how they don't, and not really how they don't, but how it really benefits you. I just think the main thing for me is proactivity, which is so crucial, and I try to push that all the time.
Which is probably why a lot of managers tell actors to do stand-up, because that is a way of creating your own thing, and then like also raising
the only
your
excuse
profile,
is yourself. But yeah, that's really, really great. So thank you for being here and sharing those stories. Where do we find you, Roxy?
Oh, everywhere at Roxy Striar.
Mr. Funtabulous?
You guys can find me everywhere at Jeffrey Crane Graham.
Subhah, where can they find you?
On Twitter at Subhah, Subhah, and on Instagram at Subhah, Subhah.
Nice. And I am now at Shawn Whalen Official on Instagram. So, as always, thank you for letting me be part of your journey.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.